Right, hello and welcome to the AmmyMMA Media Podcast, episode 3. And today I'm thrilled to be announcing we have Ian Hurst, a long-time amateur MMA veteran. Ian, how are you doing, first of all?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not bad, thank you. Basically, I've not spoke to you before, interview-wise, and don't know too much about it. So first question I want to know off the bat is, how did you get into MMA?
MMA. Obviously, we haven't spoke before, but we have been messaging back and forth a little bit. So like, just silly thumbnails or whatever we've been doing. But this is the first time we've actually got to sort of see each other. Obviously, not quite in person, but so MMA then. So I got into MMA. I joined the Navy when I was 19. So I was in the Navy a while, and when I was away on tour or sailing around, it's boring. So every time we'd stop off somewhere, we'd come back to the country, I'd buy UFC DVDs. I was doing a little bit of boxing in the Navy, but I enjoyed watching the UFC. I was watching like the Chuck Liddells and the GSPs, and I had a little like video. I suppose it's not a video machine, but it's like a portable DVD player I used to watch in my bunk, and I'd watch the UFC there. And I just came home on some summer leave once. I think I was 20, 21, and I found a gym just down the road from me. I thought I'd go and give it a go, and then just fell in love with it. I never thought I'd actually fight. It was more just a training thing. And then I just got to a point where all the coaches were like, if you wanted to fight, you're ready. So I kept putting it off, and then ended up just giving it a go. And that was that.
What made you give it a go? So a lot of people, I say, it's a big move to go in a cage and want to hurt somebody. It's a big move to make mentally, physically.
So I just broke up with my girlfriend. There might be a few times I go on like this because it's not been the greatest love life anyone's ever had. But so I'd left the Navy because I lived with my ex at the time. And she wanted me to leave. So I'd left. I'd been training nearly a couple of years at the time, and I was getting very good for that level. At that time, it's a completely different level now. I was just a catch wrestler, and I had insane fitness. But we broke up, bad relationship. I was living on a pull-out bed behind my dad's sofa in the living room, angry, pissed off, and my coaches had been telling me for a while, if you want to fight, you're ready. So I walked in, as soon as we broke up, I walked into the gym. I was like, right, get me a fight. Let's go. And within like 2 months, I had my first fight against, I don't know if you know, do you know Steve Levo, Oscar Owensworth? And
I've seen the name on your topology. Yeah, Steve Levo.
Yeah. So I fought one of their coaches in both of our first fights in 2013 at 70, which is very reminiscent of the fight that I've got coming up. 70 kilograms on the day. I weighed in at 67.7. And just out wrestled Simon at the time, but we're obviously mates now. But yeah, just went from there. I was just like, get me a fight. I'm sick of this. Let's give it a go. So yeah, it was good. That was at Sheffield Arena, not Sheffield Arena, Skate Sheffield as well.
Talk about the nerves going into that. What are you feeling going into your first fight and the first time you step in the cage to really hurt somebody? And what surprised yourself the most about that when you got in the cage and after it?
It was actually in a ring.
Wow.
Ring. The first few was in a ring, so I think that's why it's not on my record. Because I think my records, I think they've got me down as like 4-3, but really I'm 6-3-1. But the first few was in a ring. It wasn't. When you're young and you don't know and you've not fought before, you don't know what to expect. So it's actually easier. It's the more fights you have, the more damage you take, or when you've lost a couple, you actually start to, I think, sort of get a bit more nervous. I wasn't that nervous the first fight. I was just angry, full of piss and vinegar, and just wanted to go. I remember I screamed at him across the ring before the fight started. And we both just ran at each other and threw an overhand right and both missed. It was fucking, it was crazy.
Talk about that. So your topology then, it says you debuted in 2015. Is that when you actually debuted? Because obviously you said it's a bit different.
2013.
2013. Wow. So
like I said, the first few fights was in a ring, so I don't think they class them as real MMA fights. But it's actually better to fight in a cage. So it went against me being the catch wrestler at the time to fight in a ring. But I was 4-0-1 to start off with. I was undefeated, which we'll get into if you want. But my roots was just insane strength and conditioning, catch wrestling, and I learned how to box a little bit as well before. And now I've rounded my game off nicely, but I moved away from what really got me those wins and what was my sort of foundation. And I'm back there now. Now I've sort of took sort of charge of my own sort of camp now. I'm like my own head coach, which doesn't sound a good idea, but I've still got coaches, but I've just took more of a hands-on approach. Last night, I don't know if you've seen on Facebook, I'm back with my old coach doing strength and conditioning. Some of the lads are coming down with me. We've got Sheffield Shoot Fighters. We've got Pride Kickboxing. I train with Teddy Stringer. We can get into him because I'm a massive fan of him. I train with Oscar Owensworth. So and now I've got a very good sort of base, really. But yeah, that 2013.
You mentioned you changed approach. Why ultimately do you think that happened? Was it a natural thing that just happened naturally over time? You had more fights, or was it a switching camp, switching coaches? How did that happen?
So the gym I'm at, well, obviously I'm at Sheffield Shoot Fighters mainly. But with Neil, who I was with last night, he just decided to pack it in with MMA. He just wanted to focus on strength and conditioning. I was young, still wanted to fight, so I had to find another team. Found Sheffield Shoot Fighters, went there. And then that technically got a lot better there, but I sort of moved away from my sort of foundation, like I say. And I was super motivated at the time, but if I'm honest with you, this last 5-6 years, I've not been as motivated. This is where I started to lose a couple. Even the ones I won, I didn't really care. I'd do like a two-week camp, or I just wasn't that bothered. You'll be able to see my last win I had on GP UK. It's a shame because you watch it and it's upsetting for me to watch it, even though I got a win. You can see I just don't care. I wasn't in a great place at the time. I'm just walking around, just between rounds. You can just see I'm not interested. I wasn't happy with myself. And I still managed to win, even though I wasn't really trying. But now I've sort of gone back to, I'm happy now. That with me, I've always had sort of issues with sort of how I feel and my happiness and stuff. And a lot of people struggle with it. But now I'm in a very good place, sort of like work-wise and in my hobbies and training. And I'm just happy now, which is, you don't want to fight me when I'm happy. You don't want to fight me when you can, like I say, I ask my training partners, when I'm happy, I'm an absolute nightmare. But that's where I'm at the minute. So
yeah, they always say a happy fighter is a dangerous fighter. You took a couple of breaks, 2016 to 2019, I think it was a 3-year break. Was that?
Yeah.
Was that in the same that place you was in? Then you was really struggling. Was that part of that?
That was the worst I think mentally I've ever been. I was like rock bottom going into that fight. Again, I was in another relationship that was just, it wasn't good. I'm the what's the saying? The determining factor in some of these relationships. So I'm very good at sort of taking. It's my fault. You've got to got to be self-conscious that it's not everyone else's fault. Maybe you're the issue. But I was very upset going into that fight. I remember walking to the cage. I can't remember. I don't even know who I fought. I can't even. That's how much I cared. I think it was on Fight Star, but I don't know who the opponent was. And I remember walking to the cage. I remember thinking to myself, "This is it. I'll never put on a pair of MMA gloves again. I'll never train MMA again. As soon as this fight's done, whether I win or lose, I don't care. This is it. I'm never doing this again." And I remember just how upset I was. And it's a tough thing to admit to, but I started off the round. I just wanted to wrestle him because I didn't want to exchange punches. Wasn't interested. I took him down. I worked a little bit, and I fell into his guard. And I remember him setting a triangle up, and I remember just thinking to myself, I should be fighting back here. I should be fighting this off. And he was setting it up, and he was getting a little bit closer, and he was doing it wrong. To be fair, I was thinking to myself, he doesn't know how to do a triangle. How does he not know how to do a triangle? But I just didn't want to fight, and I tapped early. He was setting it up. He was pissing me off because he didn't know what he was doing. I tapped on his leg, and as soon as I did it, I was sat in the middle of the cage, and I remember thinking, what am I doing? Why have I just done that? Why have I just thrown this fight away? And ultimately, it's because I wasn't happy with myself. I didn't like myself. I didn't feel like I deserved to win. I just had enough, and I had to go through that process and step away and change careers and find somewhere to live and go through a lot of stuff at the time to realize I still loved it, and probably had about 6 months off and missed it, started to miss it, and got back into training.
What ultimately brought you back to the happy place and that place of wanting to be back in the sport and wanting to be involved again? What brought you back to that?
I think just I needed that. It was a good thing. It was the best thing that's ever happened to me going through that. It was horrible, but it's sometimes that you need to drop to be able to rise. And I think just being around the right people, change of career. I started training to be a personal trainer, and now like my life now is it's just fun. I work as a personal trainer. That's going really well. That's most of the time. That's my main focus. Illustrious Fitness is the company that I'm building. Hopefully, I'll have a gym soon. I've obviously got this podcast, which is just silly. It's not supposed to be anything. It's just a laugh. And then I enjoy training now. I feel like I haven't got the pressure that everyone expected me to do really well in MMA. Everyone was expecting big things around me. That's not there anymore. I'm 32 now. It's just for fun. Even though I am training smarter and more often than I have done for years.
Did it become a chore then? That dark player who was in at that time, they did MMA and sort of training and turning up. Did that become a chore for yourself?
Well, it wasn't MMA that was the issue. I was the issue and everything. My life was the issue. And then I was sad and down and having to go into the gym and then spar and diet. And I just didn't enjoy it anymore. I'd sort of lost my roots and I just had enough. But it was never MMA that was the issue. I love this sport. I love MMA. I watch it. Obviously, I've been doing it. I look around on the mat now, and most people that I started this with or I've been with through the years aren't there anymore. And there's a reason why I've stuck around. It's because I'm completely in love with MMA. And it's nice to sort of watch people come up as well. Well, I don't know. Are you? So I've seen you do a couple of interviews with Teddy Stringer quite a bit, and I've been training with him for a few years now, since before he even started fighting. Are you two from the same? Did you come up from school together, or did you just meet through this?
It's strange how I met Teddy, to be fair. I don't know. I just remember an Instagram post coming up on my Instagram of Kev Taylor's when Kev was his coach. And it was something about saying the Savage Teddy Stringer. And then I looked at Teddy, I followed him. And this is strange. On my Facebook, 53 Degrees, when it was a thing, came up on my Facebook, 5-week free trial. So I signed up for it. And Teddy kept ringing me. And I thought, I don't know who this is ringing me. And I kept the voicemail. And I searched up the number on Facebook. It was Teddy. So I thought, oh, wow, I'm into journalism. He's a fighter. So I messaged it, went there. It's gone from there. Really. No, I didn't really know him before. It's really weird how I got like sort of friends with Teddy and got interviews with Teddy. It's just like coincidence, really.
Yeah. I mean, I go on about Teddy with everyone. Ted knows I do this, but it's just how it is. But I've never seen anyone get so good in such a short amount of time in any martial art that I've been around as fast as Teddy did. I remember one of the first times I went down to 53. He was only young then. I think he was like 15, 16. He wasn't fighting. He just did a bit of jiu-jitsu. And I went down to spar with some of the other guys, and Ted sort of jumped in. And I was like, oh, young lad, a little bit smaller than me at the time. He's obviously bigger than me now. And just had a bit of move around with him. And I remember thinking, like, I'm sure Ted won't mind me saying this, but at the time, he just looked very shy and nervous, and everything he threw a mile away from me because it's like he didn't want to hit me. So he was like throwing really good stuff, but he just didn't want it. You could tell he didn't want to hit me. And I was like, oh, yeah, he seems all right. They seem quite big on him, but he's just a young lad. He'll be all right. And within 6 months, we was going full sort of, he gave me everything I could handle. And within a year, I was just like, this kid is, I've never seen anything like it. And it's down to sort of like Kev. I know Kev's not his coach anymore. I'm not really sure what happened there, but Kev put a lot of work into him. James is amazing, his jiu-jitsu coach. There's obviously Ryan and Matt that train him now. And not just, he's got a very good sort of coaching sort of stable around him, but not only that, him himself is just a very dedicated young man. And like I say, in 10 years, I've never seen anyone get as good as Teddy has within that 12 months. I was shocked. I'd not been down for a couple of months. And like I say, now I'll see him Friday morning. We'll be doing some training because we've both got fights coming up. He is incredible. How I just can't believe it. How good he's got. But obviously, there's Tommy we trains with as well. I'll not go on too much, but Tommy's another one. Him and Tommy, I've never seen anyone. Tommy's obviously bigger than me. He's a welterweight. I remember the first time we moved around together, I was like, oh yeah, he knows jiu-jitsu, but his striking's pretty poor at the time. And I was having my way with him as a bantamweight at the time. And then within 6 months, he was chasing me around the gym. I was like, what the fuck's going on here? Like, again, another one that just within 12 months, Tommy's a monster as well. So it'd be interesting to see if he gets back into it, because he's very impressive.
I had someone say to me once, he's one of the best amateurs they've coached and worked with. Tom, just naturally gifted.
They both are, and they both come from the same spot. So I think they probably motivated each other a little bit. But again, obviously, my housemate's Musa. I think you've done a little bit with Musa, and I've been around loads of young guys or up and coming fighters. But those two specifically, especially Teddy, well, and Tommy as well, they've both just within 12 months. I've never seen anything like it. It's like they learned how to kick, punch, the jiu-jitsu turned into MMA jiu-jitsu, the wrestling, the conditioning, just incredible.
I'll ask you one more question about Teddy then. Obviously, you said you trained with him on a Friday. Compared to now, when you first sparred him, say he was coming at you, and where he is now after been at Fourth Dimension, he's been at all these other gyms now. Talk to me about his striking involvement, because I've seen a massive improvement just in the last year in his striking.
Yeah, so everyone does this. You'll see this a lot, especially this last couple of years. People train differently, and the younger generation, I think because their attention span can be a little bit shorter, they want to learn the flashy stuff faster than they want to learn the fundamentals. But with Ted's always had pretty good striking from after about the first year that I'd been training with him. And then he improved. He got loads of flashy sort of kicks and punches added into his game, but then his fundamentals were slightly off. And this was about 18 months ago. And bear in mind, at the time, I think he was already the UKFC lightweight champion. But now when we train together, he's also learned the fundamentals now. So his feet move really well. His jab cross is nice and slick. Plus the fancy stuff he's learned as well. He's learned that the fundamentals come first, and then you add the fancy stuff on top. He's got one of the best sort of MMA back games as well. Like when he gets on your back, you just can't get him off. He controls you, but he lets you move, and it's like quicksand. He doesn't just hold on to you and you're slowly working. He'll let you move, but it just gets worse and worse. And that's why Friday morning, I'm going to be like, right, this is what I need to just go for my back and just let me drown, because it's good for me after all this time. But honestly, he is incredible. He is.
Definitely. I want to go back to your PTs. You mentioned how that really made you happy and got you to a better place. What is it about the PTs? Is it seeing people you care about and people you're working with, seeing you help them towards their goals and help them make better choices and get in better shape? What is it about that for you?
I think helping people does me a world of good. It really does help me. When I first got into it, I was more of a class-based instructor, so I'd have to run classes. But the gym I started at, which was Firehouse Fitness, they gave me a lot of freedom to create my own classes, so I could use my sort of creative side and my imagination, plus with knowledge, to come up with sort of the best classes I could. And I think I achieved that. And I got a massive sort of kick out of planning something for days, executing it, and then seeing everyone happy at the end, saying, oh, I absolutely love that class. It was amazing. And people talking about it or sharing videos, and it gave me a lot of satisfaction. So I was like, yeah, this is the career for me. And I've been doing it a few years now, and I've just been going from strength to strength. COVID's been a nightmare because I'm self-employed, but I've managed to survive and keep going through it. Like tonight, I've got a couple of outdoor classes, even though I do work in a gym still. But I would like to think, I'm quite confident that within the next 12 months, I'll have a unit or a gym, and I'll be running my own sort of, my own sort of classes and doing things my own way. But the thing is I've made this. So the last time I fought, between the GP UK and the Cage Steel fight, I got pushed out of the gym, or essentially fired. So between the fights, which is probably, I don't like to make excuses. I don't want to make an excuse for the last fight, but I didn't train for it because I was busy trying to find a job. I found the job, and I was building my client base up in this new gym. So I was focused on everybody else, and I wasn't focusing on me because I needed to obviously pay my bills because I was out of work. So that was a bad time. If I could have coached myself through then, or I could go back in time and coach myself, it's not about pulling out of fights or winning or losing, but I advise myself, look, this isn't the time to be fighting. I know it's Sheffield Arena. That's why I wanted to do it. Get your career sorted, get your bills covered, get everything okay, and then look for a fight at the end of the summer. But it was bad circumstance. But I love the career. But it definitely affected that last fight because, like I say, I didn't train for it really. I did a couple of weeks. I remember the week before the fight, I tried to run 10K and I couldn't do it. I couldn't finish this 10K run, even as slow as I was going. And I remember thinking, this is not like I'm a runner. Like I run 13 to 15K 2 or 3 times a week just for fun. But the week before that fight, I couldn't finish a 10. And I remember thinking, I'm putting myself in a bad position. Well, the other guy deserved to win. What's his name?
Hang on.
You can tell when I've gone into fights and I'm just not interested because I don't even know who they are.
Jack Holt.
Yeah, he's all right. He seems like a right nice kid. And I think he's doing well. But we had a little chat before the fight in the back, and I remember thinking, oh, he's a right nice kid. And I remember getting in there being like, I don't really want to hit him, to be honest. He seems like a nice person. And that's not how you want to feel before a fight. But yeah, I should have done that really. I should have pulled out of that fight and got myself sorted, but or at least trained for it, which wasn't really an option at the time. But it is what it is. We like I've learned from that now. Now I know you've got to get your priorities right before you fight. Obviously, a lot of fighters, they haven't got bills and they haven't got a house. They usually like live at home, or they're young, or they live in a camp. But your average person, you've got to have priorities. Luckily for me, I haven't got kids or a wife or anything, but I've got a girlfriend, but this one's a good one. And I don't sound like I get in the best relationships. This one's the one. Don't worry.
That's what you like to hear. Just on, like you say, you're being like you're your own coach now, and obviously you've got coaches around you. You're being your own sort of coach. Now in the future, those decisions you made in the past that may have been the wrong ones. Are they looking smarter at fights now, being a lot smarter, giving yourself time to prepare for fights and look after you say your PTs and your house and your money and stuff?
Yeah, well, you got to remember it never sounds good when you're your own head coach. It's never advisable, but at the same time, you've got to remember, no one cares about you winning a fight more than you. No one's as invested in yourself as you are. So when I say head coach, all it is I'm planning. So I'm like, right, I want this guy to be my striking coach. I listen to him for anything he wants me to do striking wise. This guy's my wrestling coach. I picked him. He's the right guy. That's what I want. This is my conditioning coach. And then I obviously listen to them and I'll do as I'm asked. But I've just taken more of a hands-on approach of how I train, not just going along to classes and doing a little bit of this here and there. You've got to have specific training for fights, and that's what I've done. I'm not sparring as much anymore. I don't think it's necessary. It's more technical stuff. It's more conditioning. It's more drilling. And then I'll do like one hard spar a week. But there's gone are the days now for me of 2 or 3 hard spars a week, just brawling. It doesn't benefit you. It honestly doesn't. You might need to do it sort of the first few years you start, but as soon as you're happy with your game, you know your strategy, you know what you're good at, just practice them. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
When did you make that decision about sparring? Because I've seen a lot of guys come out and say they've stopped sparring. Tony Ferguson, Cowboy Cerrone saying he's limiting it down now. Max Holloway recently say he hasn't sparred. When did you make that decision to cut down sparring hours and sparring days for yourself?
It's been something I've been aware of for a while. But at the same time, there's been times of this last year or two where I've sparred more than I'd like, only because I'm helping other guys get ready for fights. So I'm committing myself to my teammates. And if they need me for rounds, I'm there. And that's one thing. Any of my teammates, so I've been there 10 years and I'm always there. And I've always helped people. I'd like to think I'm there for them. So I've sparred more than I'd like, but now it's more about me. It wasn't, I'm good now. My neck's fine now, but I've had neck issues for a few years. And about a month and a half ago, we were sparring with Oliver Harriet, who was about 92 kilograms at the minute. And I hit him with a double leg takedown and I finished the takedown, but I hit my forehead on his stomach. And as I finished the floor, I felt a hot pain go all the way down my back. And like I said, I've had neck problems before. So I was like, oh yeah, here we go again. Here's my neck. But I couldn't get out of bed the next day. I couldn't lift my head off the pillow. I couldn't get up. I was in agony. I had to cancel all my PTs and I couldn't go to work for a couple of days. And I think that like I say, a month and a half ago, that's when I was like, right, that's it now. I don't need to be, because we was brawling as well as throwing big punches. It wasn't just a takedown. I was just like, I don't need to be doing this. It's not, now I can't train all week properly. Whereas if I'd just gone 50%, I could train at 75, 50% all week and be consistent. So yeah, I've took them out now. Like me and Ted were doing a lot of sparring at one point, but I think this Friday we'll just be drilling, going over certain situations and using your brain more than your body.
It must be hard to be disciplined in that sense. You know, when you're sparring, it's hard to not get in sort of a brawl because like guys like Dustin Poirier say he doesn't want to get in these wars of hooker, but he enjoys it sometimes. Like when the firefighting's there. Is that the same sort of case for you? Is it just like crap? After it's done, you're like, why did I do that? But in the moment, it's like, oh crap, I'm doing it.
You got to remember, especially in the gym, you're always going to get into brawls because you're there, and I've been there for so long because ultimately I like to fight. I don't really want to hurt people, but I like to fight. So when you can get going in the gym, like me and Musa have some wild brawls at times. It's ridiculous. It looks just such a mess when we get going because we're just trying to take each other out. But it's all for love. You know what I mean? It's out of love, really. But yeah, you just can't help yourself sometimes. So you have to hold yourself back, and you need the right coaches to tell you, you don't need to be doing that all the time. Just drill this. And the striking coach that I've brought in for this last couple of years, we've got Dale Joel, who's got Pride Kickboxing, and Wayne Reed's also there, who's been working boxing with me for about 7 years now. And they've really got me sharp at the minute. I've always had good hands, which you'll not be able to really see in a lot of my fights. Although my last win, you'll be able to see I was pointing on him with my hands. I've always had good hands, and it is my biggest strength in the gym. Any of the training partners I've got will tell you this. But I do seem to get a bit wrestling heavy at times, which isn't the plan anymore, unless the opportunity is there. But Dale's really got my kicks coming along as well. I've always had decent kicks, but it's just the timing and stuff's completely different in MMA. You might get taken down off a body kick and even leg kicks. So just my timing's good at the minute. I feel very good at the minute, and I'm happy. Again, I'm a nightmare when I'm happy.
That's the key.
And just knowing that you have to know that. Like now I've never had much confidence in myself with anything. But I'm in a place now where I'm not cocky about it, but there's a reason why I've been doing this for 10 years and I've put the work in, and now I can just enjoy being at this level that I feel like I'm at now. So
that's the key. Right. So talk to me about the last lockdown 1.0. You, yourself, Musa, and your girlfriend obviously training and stuff. That was really inspiring for me. Talk about how beneficial that was for you, and then also how it reignited the fire in MMA for yourself.
Yeah, of course. I was very lucky that obviously live in the same place as Musa. So yeah, we just did what we could. I put little circuit training sessions on for us. We'd do pads. It was quite funny actually, because a few times in the parking, in just the parking spot, or I don't know why I'm struggling to say parking spaces, but yeah, in the car park, we'd have little boxing matches in the car park, just me and Musa and the neighbours, because we live in flats, and they'd be all watching us boxing each other, and they'd be all commenting afterwards like who they thought won and stuff. It's quite funny. But obviously, my girlfriend's a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well, so I got some mats out in the living room, pushed all the furniture out the way, got 3x3 meter mats, and we just rolled, whether it was gi, no gi. I think we had morph suits on one of the days, me and Musa just being silly, and it was good. Obviously, I spent a lot of time over that year before the lockdown focusing on other people, classes, my job. So it was good to be a little bit selfish and just do my own sort of thing, focus on myself, because obviously legally I wasn't even allowed to work. But it was good because now I've got a balance. Sometimes you need to be a bit selfish with anything to do well at anything. So if I want to fight and I want to compete, and I have to be a little bit selfish, but it's about balance. Anything you do, whether it's a job, obviously you're doing your podcasting now, you've got to be a little bit selfish yourself. You can't just focus and do whatever's best for everyone else, because you'll not get anywhere. You have to be selfish to do well at anything in life. So it's got me in a good balance now. Obviously, 6 months ago, I started this podcast, which is doing all right now. We've had over 1,000 downloads and stuff, and it's doing pretty well. But 6 months ago, I've said this before to a few people, but it is true. it was difficult for me to change the background on my phone. That's how good I am with technology. I'm terrible. I am terrible with technology. Everything I do is pen and paper, but how I am with anything, I like a challenge. That's probably why I've stuck around with MMA. So it was a challenge for me where I had nothing to do, to learn what equipment I needed, how to even record, how to edit, what software to use. I've wasted money on things that I shouldn't have bought, but it's just how you are with anything. But we're doing all right now. We just have some daft discussions and stuff, and talk fights and talk. Sometimes we talk a bit of pro wrestling as well, but we're going off that a little bit at the minute. It's just terrible. But I like the theatrics. Obviously, the UFC was based on pro wrestling. Dana White copied, obviously, Vince McMahon's blueprint of how to run a company. It's all based off pro wrestling. So I like the silliness, the promos, the pretend fights. They're just silliness. I like a story. But anyway, I'm going off a little bit there on a tangent as always.
But I have to say, I do really enjoy the podcast. And when I first listened to it, I didn't know what to expect. But the first 10 minutes, I was in stitches, especially that with the questions, who would win out of so and so.
Yeah, it's Musa knows how to expect it now. But anytime we do a proper podcast, we've actually got an episode coming up, the best shooters and workers of all time. So it's like the guys who we think's the best that have done pro wrestling and MMA. So obviously your Brock Lesnar's, your Shamrocks, your Ronda Rousey's. I'm going to sort of discuss that sort of stuff. But anytime we do a proper episode together, he's, like I say, he's figured it out now. I always ask him about a ridiculous fight and I get him to break it down. And because he is the way he is, he can't just move on. He can't be like, oh yeah, that's silly. He starts getting into it and then halfway through, be like, why am I taking this seriously? Who actually cares about this? But yeah, it's only for fun. I'm only doing it for fun, a bit of a laugh. Me, obviously, because me and Muscle live together, we just talk shit 90% of the time. Everything we say to each other, 90% of it is just absolute crap. So it was like, if we could record this, I think a couple of people would find this fairly entertaining. So that was a thought process.
Yeah, it's sort of some assimilated podcast. It's a great way to let off steam. I have another podcast that I do, and it, like me and my mate, it's the same example. We're talking absolute just garbage on the sport. You think sometimes people might listen to this. Like that matchup that you do, it's the best part for me. I'm like, what name is going to come up with next? It's brilliant.
I've got an absolute belter for the next one. I've had it for about 3 months, but we haven't done a full podcast for a while, or a full episode, because I've been busy sort of getting back to work. But I've got 3 or 4 lined up that we'll be doing. I've got 3 or 4 already. No, I've got 2 recorded. One's with Oscar Owensworth, pro MMA fighter. I need to finish that. I wanted to get it out yesterday, but I just haven't had time. But that'll be out. But yeah, it's just fun. We literally when me and Mussa's talking, it's just who can make the other one laugh the most. But yeah, that's what it's about.
You sort of put like your analyst hat on sometimes. Well, you're breaking down these fights. Like you have like a minute to like I remember Leon Edwards versus Kamzat Chimaev. You have a minute each. Bell go. You sort of put your analyst hat on a bit. I think you grow a bit more of a mind for the sport. When you talk about something more and more, you grow a mind for it, don't you?
Well, we are silly, but we're also very obsessed with MMA. I love it. I've been watching it a long time. I'm very interested in it. Mussa's exactly the same. Sometimes he'll come out with stuff about like old Gracie stuff, and I'm like, fucking hell, I've never even heard of this before. But he loves it as well, so it's quite good when we get going.
Definitely, I really enjoy it. It's like I say, it's good as well when you've had a tough week and you've had a long week of training, just to have some steam, isn't it? And just like it's sort of relaxing and refreshing when you sat there. There's no pressure on it, is there? Really? Like I say, it's a bit of fun. And 1K downloads, that's amazing.
The last couple we've done. Well, I've been doing episodes as well, but we obviously do the fight predictions, which isn't a full episode. It's more of a bonus episode. We've done UFC 262 recently, which I actually won that, and 261, and I think they were 2 of the funniest ones we've done. And it's obviously we've got Oliver Harriet in as well, so there's 3 of us. Get a couple of beers out on a Sunday night and just sit in the podcast room and just talk absolute, just ridiculous stuff. It's really funny. It's fun. It's like what your mate just like. It's what you talk about with your mates about in a pub, but we just sit in the podcast room and record it while we're doing it. And obviously we've got a bit of a competition with that, with prediction points, and we keep a bit of a tally. So I've got all the tallies behind me. It's just a bit of fun. It's like, get off. Hang on a minute.
They love the interviews, don't they, dogs?
Yeah, he loves it.
Just on the podcast, you obviously mentioned yourself. Musa was talking about going pro, and you mentioned yourself. You have the same sort of timeline, end of this year, maybe next year. Is that still the plan?
Well, this will be my last amateur, regardless if I win or lose. So I'm not doing another amateur. I'm not fighting for free after this, only because it takes up so much of my time. And not only that, 3 threes doesn't work for me because I've always had really good conditioning, really good fitness. It actually makes me nervous that the fight's only 9 minutes. So I'm like, I can't break. I don't know if I've got enough time to break this guy, which is one of my biggest strengths in the gym. Like I say, I mean, I ask Musa, Ted, a lot of the guys, one of my biggest strengths is I can break somebody down over a long period of time and just sort of break wills. That's, you'll never see me get tired in a fight. I think there was one fight that I got tired in a little bit, but then I finished it like 30 seconds later by TKO. And that's because I'd just come off a lad's holiday. I had like a week and a half to get ready for the fight. I'd just been hammered for a week. And then I still had better pace than the other guy. But yeah, so 3 5s would be perfect for me. Like I can't wait to be able to do 3. We do 5-minute rounds now in the gym anyway. We just, especially on the open mats, 5 minutes on the timer, minute rest, just go for an hour and we just roll or spar or do pads so I've conditioned myself to 5-minute rounds anyway. I assume I'm going to win this fight because I'm happy and I'm in a good place. And I've only ever lost once when I'm in that sort of zone, and that was the first time. And that's because the kid's a really talented fighter in Josh Mottram. So I'm assuming I'm going to win this fight, and I think I know I'm going to win it, but I'm going to save that for myself. But if I don't and it goes wrong, I'd still either go pro, or if nobody wants to pay me to fight, I'd just train. I'd just train and focus on my business. I do it for fun, but I won't be doing any more amateurs after this. I didn't want this one to be an amateur, but I agreed to it just because I want to fight. There's not many pro shows at the minute with obviously the pandemic.
Yeah, it's difficult to get matches, isn't it? There's only like a limited amount of shows. I think there's off the top of my head about 4 or 5 shows actually probably going ahead this year so far.
Well, my last 5 fights have been at bantamweight, and I was getting ready to move up anyway because that last cut I couldn't get below 67. And I did everything to get there. And then I spent 3 days in my flat just trying to get down to 61. And I remember I turned up to Sheffield Arena and I was stood next to All and was getting ready to weigh in. And I went blind. I couldn't see anything. And I was stood next to All and I was like, mate, don't leave me because I can't see anything. I'd gone blind at that weigh-in, and it was really rough. You can see on the picture of me, I look like I've been dug up. And I remember after that, I thought I can't. Obviously, I'd not really trained for that fight, but I'd still dieted, and I just thought I can't do bantamweight again. So this one was supposed to be at featherweight, but the other team wanted to fight at 70 on the day, which is very reminiscent of the first fight I ever had through Neil, who I'm now back in touch with. So I feel like everything's come full circle. So we'll do a 70 on the day, as long as there's no sort of trickery or anything, which I've had before. 70 on the day. I'm about 74 now, but I blew up to about 78 over the lockdown. I thought I'm never making 61 again. But at the minute it's flying off the weight, and I'm not even dieting that hard. So 66 is very easy. And at some point, if I do go pro, we might look at bantamweight again, just because how much running and training I'm doing now, it is falling off me. But it's going to be interesting to see how this comes full circle. Like my original fight where I weighed in underweight at 70 on the day. I've had all these issues. I was very happy then, even though I was like living it, like I say, behind my dad's sofa. I was happy. And I'm happy now. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. It seems like an all right kid, my opponent. I don't really know much about him. I know he's 2-0, a young lad. I think I'll just be way too much for him, but we'll see.
It feels like we've gone to the film here, and now we're coming back to the point where the guy finds himself again. And this is what I'm sensing now. It feels like you've found yourself again. You found your old coach, the weight class you started in, the OG Ian Hurst. Is that fair to say he's back?
You'll know when you see me come down to the ring. If I look quiet and I look relaxed, panic. But if I come down screaming and kicking off and smiling and mean mugging the other guy, then you know what's going to happen. Same as any time I've ever been like that. But like I say, obviously you speak to Ted all the time. He'll tell you what I'm like in the gym. I'm unfortunately you hear about it all the time, and I never thought I'd be this guy. And I don't want to finish fighting being this guy. But sometimes you get guys that are amazing in the gym and they don't perform in the ring. And sometimes you get guys that are okay in the gym, but somehow they perform in the ring. Sometimes you get a bit of both. I was the guy that was okay, but on fight night, I'd come out like a fucking wild banshee and you couldn't stop me. And then somewhere along the line, I lost myself, and now I'm I'm the guy in the gym that's an absolute nightmare to do rounds with, even though I'm a bit smaller than a lot of people. But I haven't really been performing because I think just due to lack of interest, I've not cared these last few fights. But now I am interested. I feel like I've got a point to prove, and I want everyone to see what everyone else sees in the gym. I want them to know how good I am, selfishly, and I want to be selfish again.
That's
So
really good to hear.
I'm going to come out. I'm going to try and take him out quick. That's the plan.
Quick, what early knockout are we saying?
Someone tell him. Someone tell him. I'm going to move across that ring and I don't know, climb out of there or do something. I don't know what to do. It's all fun in it, but I'm gonna take some risks in this. My defensive grappling is some of the best in Sheffield. I think I'm a nightmare if you try and take me down. My offensive is pretty good, but sometimes I have an issue with falling into guards, and I've tidied that up now. But on the feet, I'm very difficult to hit. In 10 fights, I've never been hit flush. No one's ever hit me once in 10 fights, and I hit hard. Ask any opponent I've fought, they'll tell you. They've even said to me, like, you hit very hard. My training partners know as well. So I don't want to sort of blow my own trumpet too much, but I've never performed or I haven't lived up to my ability. But there's still time at 32 years old. I know I've still got time to show what I'm capable of, and that's what I intend to do.
Is there any sort of pressure, this being your last amateur fight, that you've got to sort of make a big statement for these pro promotions, or is it just, this is just
I'd like a good highlight, so they're like, fucking hell, who's that, sort of thing. But there's no pressure because now I'm even though I'm training smarter and more often than I have done for years, my priority now is the business that I'm building and the people around me that I love. And the things that I enjoy doing, that's my priority. This is fun now. This is fun for me. And when I'm relaxed and happy and having fun in the gym, that's when I'm at my most dangerous. And that's when I'm the most difficult. So if I can go in like that, dedicated, motivated, but loose, happy, not caring, like I take a lot of risks in the gym. I go for wild stuff but when sometimes when you care too much, you keep things too basic and you don't always use all your tools, whereas I'm happy to go in there and just try stuff and throw whatever I need to have a bit of fun. And it is for fun now. This is for fun. I'm doing it for fun. I intend to win this one, and then I want to try some pros and just sort of see where we land.
Real. August 7th the fight is, if I'm correct.
August 7th, yeah, for now, as long as it doesn't change. Which I had a couple booked over the lockdown and they kept changing and got cancelled. So it was probably a blessing in disguise, to be honest. This is the right time.
Yeah, it definitely seems that from I'm talking to you now, you seem like really happy places that everything's really enjoying. Just on your training and that sort of schedule now, are you in a fight camp now, or how does that work for you? Obviously, being older and you've been in the game for so many years, is it just you just continuously train, so there's never really such as a fight camp as such? How does it work?
I will be using a fight camp. Obviously, a fight camp for me is more about not drinking alcohol, not having bad foods, and just sort of moving your training specifically to that sort of 3 minute fight. It's no like I like to run, but I'll run an hour and a half. I'll run an hour and 15 minutes. The damaging thing for that is you become more of a marathon runner, less of a sprinter. And when you fight 3-3s, you need to be a sprinter. You haven't got an hour to fight. That's so what I start to do is I take out these 2-hour sessions that I do in the gym. You don't need to be able to fight or train for 2 hours. You don't need it. You need a solid 30 minutes in you. So I'll do like an hour here where I'll warm up for 10 minutes. I'll stretch off. I'll shadow box, and then we'll wrestle or we'll spar or whatever we're doing for a solid half hour, and then I'll rest. And then later in the evening, I might go for a run or do sprints, or we break everything up. So instead of a 2-hour session, I'll just do a solid hour, 2 times a day, and it seems to work better. So again, obviously we're on Monday now. Last night, yesterday evening, Sunday evening, I was in the gym doing a horrendous strength and conditioning session with Luke James, who fights on the same card. So it's not as if I'm not training. We're training harder than most people are anyway. Most people in fight camps don't train like I'm training at the minute. So it's like I say, I'll be at kickboxing 2 hours tonight. But again, I'm not in fight camp yet. We're 11, 12 weeks out. When I get to like 8 weeks, that's when everything starts to finely tune. But at the minute, I can have a glass of wine here and there. I can, like I say, I'm 3 or 4 kilograms off weight. So I'm good as long as I'm it's easy. It's easy now.
Is it a sort of train smart, fight hard mentality now for you nowadays?
Yeah, well, but you have to train hard as well. It's not just you have to train smart. So it's loads of drilling, loads of shadow boxing, loads of mental training. Like for me, I've just bought. I don't know if you've heard of a book called Chimp Paradox. That's also like getting involved with your own sort of inner chimp instead of fighting against yourself. You get on board with yourself, which is something I need. So a lot of mental stuff, reading, obviously training. I never have any time off. We was talking about this in the gym the other day. Like, there's never been a time when you haven't been here over the 6 years I've been at Shoot Fighters. So sometimes I have to hold myself back a little bit, but at the minute I'm just enjoying it. So I don't need to. I feel healthy. My neck's all good. My body's good. And I enjoy training with people that are also fit and then watching them break in the gym. And while I'm still getting going, I'm like, come on, there's still 2 or 3 rounds. Yeah, do not fade. Well, that's my favorite thing in training. I love that part.
I love that. That's brilliant. Just before we cap off, is anyone, any teammates you'd like to thank, sponsorships, coaches, anything like that you'd like to add?
Obviously, follow the podcast, the CPW podcast on Instagram. We just put daft thumbnails and stuff up there. I haven't got a Twitter. I can't be bothered with Twitter. I haven't got anything else. It's just on Instagram. And obviously the podcast is on Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Deezer, anywhere. It's all over the place, apart from YouTube, which may come in the future. Obviously, Musta's a massive help. Sam Bolt, who's the coach at Sheffield Shoot Fighters. I'm just surrounded by amazing people. I don't want to go on about all of them. Neil Anderson, Dale, Wayne. I've got loads of great coaches, which is the first time in ages I've got more than sort of one sort of coach. But yeah, that's the podcast. Everything's good. I've got some amazing teammates. But yeah, keep your eye on Teddy Stringer. Keep your eye on that young man, because he's frighteningly good for his age. He's already like a 2 or 3 time UKFC champion. And he's just getting bigger. He's still growing. Every time I see him, he looks bigger. I'm like, what the fuck? He looks like a middleweight. But yeah.
Definitely. Well, Ian, it's been an absolute pleasure. And like you said, check out the Combat and Pro Wrestling podcast. Even if you don't listen to the podcast, the thumbnails themselves are amazing. They're brilliant.
Well, yeah, it's nice to actually get to talk to you in person as well. Obviously, I've seen you doing a couple of podcasts, so just keep going with that. It's nice to see what you're doing as well, and you seem like you're interested and you're motivated with it. So just keep going, even when there's a million things going wrong with it. Just keep going, and be the last one standing with anything you're doing. I
appreciate that. I say it's like you said, it's great to meet you as well. It's been a long time coming. I must say, to be fair, it's been a long time.
Like I say, we've messaged each other. I know you always like comment on the thumbnails and stuff, and I appreciate that if you share anything. But yeah, if there's anything I can help you with as well, let me know. If there's anything you want me to share, or if you want me to get in touch with anyone, I think a good interview for you would be Oscar Owensworth, who's had 4 pro fights. He's a right nice lad. He's a Sheffield guy. You should get him on as well.
I'll look at that. Actually, I'll look at that. Oscar Owensworth, 4-0, 4 fights pro. You say
he's had 4 pro fights. I think he's 2-2, but he's a very talented guy. One of the best MMA strikers I've ever trained with, and now he's wrestling and grappling's getting there as well. Now he's got some good grappling as well. But for the longest time, he's just been mainly a kickboxer with a bit of grappling skill. But he's very well rounded now. He's one to watch. I think he's about 24 now, so he's still very young.
Oh wow, brilliant! So that, like Ian, like I say, it's been amazing. I love this story. It's like like a film, really. We've gone from the start, where you got there, and then we got to the end. And now you've sort of found yourself. It's been amazing to watch, and I'm really glad I did this.
We're only halfway through, so there's loads to come. So
definitely keep an eye out for Ian Hurst fighting August 7th against Luke Richardson. I think, if I'm correct.
Probably, I don't know.
Probably.
I think that's
Probably, yeah.
You know what I'm like. You can see what I'm like with names. I think his name's Luke. Yeah.
Probably, yeah. But yeah, keep an eye out for Ian Hurst on this podcast. Ian, thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Nice one.